Hey, welcome to the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about a very interesting situation of a young woman who successfully fought off an attacker inside of her apartment gym. Tracy's on with us. Tracy, give us a little lead into this story.
Well, it looks like it was, like you said, her apartment gym, and she was very comfortable working out late at night. It was almost 10 o'clock. Apparently, this guy had been in the gym before. She knew him. Looked like he'd forgotten his key card, and she let him in. She said she just went back to her workout. And the next thing you know, he comes around the corner and approaches her, literally has her backed up against the wall. And she reacted like that and fought him off. It's amazing. Her reaction time was amazing.
That's great. Do you want to take a look at it now and we can talk our way through it?
Absolutely.
So here she is letting the attacker in the door. But what's interesting is he does not appear like he's actually going to attack her, correct?
Yeah. And don't you love the fact he has flip-flops on? Like you're really going to work out with those on?
Now, here's the initial attack that we get.
Right. And she goes chihuahua crazy on this guy. It wasn't even any hesitancy.
All right. So what's interesting about that is there's a lot of backstory to that. Give us some of the things she talked about, and we'll take a look at the clip again. But give us some more of the background that you know of regarding this situation.
Well, I remember her saying that I think it was one of her parents that always told her, give it 100%, you need to fight. But one thing that really struck me, she said that I just kept going and I kept fighting because I knew at some point he would give up. She even said, in my mind, I knew I was stronger than him and I could fight him. So there's your mindset right there.
Okay, great. Let's take a look at that again, because when you take a look at it with that kind of information, so I understand she works out religiously, so she is quite fit and quite strong. And we talked just a minute ago about he did not show initially any kind of commitment to attack. So when we talk about, well, she should have had better situational awareness, or why did she even let him in the first place? You told me that she'd seen him before, right?
Sure. Yeah. I would have let him in.
Well, we're all nice. We do. So she lets him in. He doesn't even appear like he's going to attack. And then we're going to follow through, and I'm going to add a couple comments on top as we go.
Perfect.
So she lets him in. It's almost 10 o'clock at night, 5 minutes to 10. He comes in casually, does not set off any alarm bells. Look at this guy. Now, she says he ends up coming next to the right, that part, and he traps her in the back part of the room. She says originally, she said, "What the F are you doing?" And now she knows that he's committed. She tries to escape. He chases her into the first room, and now front bear hug. Front bear hug under the arms. And now he takes her to the ground. Well, I never want to go to the ground, Brad. Well, yeah, but that you don't have a choice. A minute later, she wears him out and she ends up being able to successfully escape. So give me a little bit of a flavor for what you as a woman, as an instructor, you would have done.
Well, I think what I was most impressed with, and she probably didn't know this, but law enforcement that I've worked with have told me that the average bad guy knows they have 3 seconds, to gain control over you. So that means that we have to react in less than 3 seconds. So I always tell my students, you need to go chihuahua, go chihuahua on them. But think about this. Most people without any self-defense training, it takes you more than 3 seconds to process, hey, what's going on? Is this a joke? What's he doing? Is he just trying to come on to me? By that time, he could have had her in a chokehold for all we know. So the fact that she was able to sense that he was a predator, she told him to back off. She had her hands up. She pushed him away and he came at her again. That's when she knew she had to commit to the fight.
Now, I noticed at one point it looked like she was looking at her phone. What was the story on that?
Well, the story was she was trying to call 911. And one thing I always tell my students is make sure you're comfortable with your phone. An iPhone and an Android are completely different. With an iPhone, 2 clicks and a swipe, uh, because trying to put your fingerprint in there or put in your code to open up your phone to dial 911 or to open up one of those safety apps, it's going to take too much time. So I really encourage people to be comfortable with their phone, to just know how to get it to 911 in a second.
So now there's some methods are many, but concepts and principles are few. And when we look at what we teach, is that we teach the concepts and the principles. Your first binary decision is: do I stay in the parking lot and he's trying to take me somewhere else? Or is he trying to keep me in this private spot and I need to leave? So I need to go to people. The next one is we need to know how to escape from a front bear hug, and then what to do if we get put on the ground. Now, what's commendable to me on her standpoint is she didn't let that get in the way.
No.
She's untrained, but the sheer fact that she resisted, and we're going to talk about this in a couple minutes, the resistance is what's important. Tell me a little bit about what you teach, and you can expound on the Chihuahua crazy concept.
Well, the thing is, like you said, it was the resistance and the commitment, the mindset to fighting him is what saved her. But think about this. She was strong. I mean, she's ripped. She's an athlete. Think about just the average person that couldn't fight him. That's when it's really important to know technique, because not all of us have her kind of strength, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people would have froze, and
Right.
we need to get out of freeze mode and we need to get into fight mode, or like you said, flight mode. Get to people. So when I teach my students, I always say, give them a really good back off, hands up, by your face. Give them a good back off. And if they move forward by law, that next step is attempted assault. You have every right by law to hit them first. That's what the law says with self-defense. Tell them to stop. The next step, they don't, go for it. And that's what she did. And most people, I don't think, would have done that. They would have felt like, well, he needs to hit me first before I hit him.
And there's a lot of things in that gym you were talking about that you could use to hit. Give me a couple examples.
Right. First of all, when we go into places, whether it's a gym or a restaurant or wherever we're at, we need to look around and look to see what our environmental weapons are. She could have used maybe a weight, but you got to know where they're at. What about your hydro flask? That would have been a good weapon. But it's really just looking and seeing if anything happened to me. I always call it the what if game. What if somebody came in here and I'm alone? It's 10 o'clock at night. I could use that weight. I could use my hydro flask. I could set the fire alarm off. But you have to kind of pre-plan it before it starts.
Okay, so when you talk about some of the things that you just talked about, like pulling the fire alarm and those kind of things, that's one of our concepts of attract attention. So we want to make it as difficult as possible for the guy. Now, we may not at 10 o'clock get people to come to our aid, but the important part is the bad guy thinks that someone could be coming and you're not cooperating. Usually they will almost always tell you, shut up and you won't get hurt, stay quiet or I'll kill you, something like that. They want you to comply. The great thing about this case is she resisted wholeheartedly right from the start. And we're going to show a chart here in a minute that shows you why that is so important to succeed in defending yourself from an assault.
Right, right. I think one of the things that you said that I really want people to remember is we tend to second guess everything. Is this a joke? Am I on a video camera, for YouTube? So I always tell my students, it's your safety first, then his feelings. Don't second guess yourself. Listen to your gut, your creep alarm.
Good. Well, I'll tell you what, let me put up the chart right here. And it's from a well-noted trainer, law enforcement trainer named Greg Ellifritz. And you can see the success rate for how you resist from left to right, from the most successful down to the least successful. So the most successful, and it's not actually applicable here, is to respond with a weapon, a gun or a knife. The next best success rate is to fight back. Well, Brad, I'm worried that if I fight back, he's going to actually just hurt me. Well, the second best success rate is to fight back. Right on its tail is to run. Go, regardless of what he says. I'm whatever he says, run. The one that's fairly, half and half is to scream, attract attention. And then finally, the last one at 4%, I just have in there cry, but it's actually pleading and crying. And there's some people that have said to me that that's actually sometimes that incites the predatory type of effect for attackers, because rape is a crime of violence that uses sex as a weapon, and the attacker's trying to dominate you and humiliate you. Right. So when we take a look at this, give me your idea on these kind of percentages and these kind of actions.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree 100%. We always say your voice is your biggest weapon, right? But plan A should be run, if you can. A lot of times we can't, so we have to fight and resist. So that's the key, is learning how to fight. And I just want to insert one thing. I'm starting to tell my students now not to scream, but to yell, because a lot of times when people scream, people don't want to get involved, or they think it's, people are goofing off or playing. Yelling sounds a lot stronger. And it's also knowing what to yell, 911, rape, help. Long ago in the old days, I can't remember they used to tell us to yell fire if we're being attacked. Well, the police told me to tell my students, stop telling people that, because 911 operators need to know what the problem is. And because the police response times are so they're not as quick as they used to be, we really do need to let people know what the problem is. And hopefully, your voice will attract attention. But I love the fact that 86% of it is fighting back, is going to make that person back off.
Well, those are all great things to know. And I'm glad we got a chance to take a look at this heroic effort by this young woman, because it really gives us a sense of, if she can do it, I can do it. Maybe she's younger and stronger, but boy, she reacted immediately. And we've talked about that before in terms of reacting. And I like we almost call it a fence. We call it a soft challenge, where you step back, and when the person steps in, you are in a fight. You're under attack now. If he doesn't stop at that first part, practice. We practice in class what to say, how to say it. And I like your standpoint. So you saw on the chart, let's take a look at it again. You saw on the chart that screaming is a great start. Running is even better. And fighting, if you have to, is superbly successful. And then one that is creating a little bit of eye-opening is for smaller, more vulnerable people, a gun or a knife really changes things. Now, that takes a lot more training. We're not going to cover that today. Is there anything you'd like to add to this, Tracie, before we wrap up this segment?
No, I think that covers it all. One thing I did want to add, though, is the reason we want people to train. I noticed in my classes because like you, I use mock assailants, guys wearing the big suits. And I've noticed that after my students learn the techniques, when they go to practice it on the guys, they always are quiet. They're so focused on the technique that nothing comes out of their mouth. If I had $1 for every time I said, kick to the groin, kick to the knee, eyes, I'd be a millionaire. Because it's really difficult for a new student or someone that's never been attacked before to put their voice together with the technique. So that's why it's really important to practice, because we got to get them. We have to bring the two together.
And absolutely. And a little bit on practicing, it's the frequency versus the duration. So someone comes to one of our 3-hour classes and then they walk off and they go, great, I totally know it. To your point, think about when you were first learning to drive. Just the simple fact of how do you press the brake, or how much do you have to turn? How do you accelerate on pushing the gas pedal? It takes a lot of that. So when we look at that, you learning how to drive, you go out. Or when we look at the seminar method versus the martial arts method, we like the martial arts method, because if you're going to martial arts, you go once or twice a week for a couple of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
The seminar method is, hey, I'm going to go out of town. I'm going to do this 6 or 8 hour, 16-hour seminar. And man, if I can learn just one thing, well, the problem is you learn so much and then you can't practice it. So I totally agree with you. Even if you just have a friend and do it over and over and over. So now it's like driving. I don't have to think about the physical mechanics of it.
Right.
And now I can put it together with my voice.
Right. I have a friend who she teaches self-defense, but she watches videos all the time. She's all different techniques, different methodologies, just so that she's always in her mind rehearsing, what would I do if this happened to me? It's just a constant writing of that script. What would I do? What would I do? Yeah. It's like CPR. I take CPR and then 6 months later, I pray that nobody has a heart attack. As I forget.
Go out and do it again. But I will also give you the benefit of the doubt, because as one of the concepts that we do is there's many methods. Methods are many. There's a lot of things that you can do, but if I know one thing that I can do, I'm better off than trying to know 200 things.
Right.
So,
and that's why I always tell people, just go Chihuahua crazy, go whatever you want to call it, raging, Medea, go Chihuahua, because nobody wants to mess with crazy, right? They want the pleading, oh, please leave me alone. What do you want? I'll give you money, that type of person.
Right. So I wholeheartedly endorse your rehearsals with your padded assailants, because now the students get a chance to start really using the techniques, knowing that they can't hurt the guys in the suit because they're padded.
You would know
until they get really good, and then you start realizing you can do a lot of damage to full grown male attacker. Yeah. So I wholeheartedly endorse that. Where can people come to get more information for you?
So you can find me at playatsafedefense.com. And I have classes on a regular basis. So, and they vary by age. So I have children's classes, a lot of teen women. Right now we're doing a lot of college bound classes for the summer, but we hit every age group.
Tracie, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today. And we're going to do more of this in the future. So thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thanks so much.